The sun is already high when Evelyn reaches the valley that cradles the settlement. A crooked wooden sign sways in the wind. Dry Creek Crossing. The name sounds temporary, as if the town itself expects to be swallowed by sand one day. She passes weather-beaten facades, wagons half broken, the glint of tin roofs and mirrored glass. Every step feels too loud after the silence of the canyon. She rents a narrow room above the livery, trading her silver bracelet for a week's shelter and the promise of work cleaning tables at the cafe. The woman who hires her, a stout widow named Mrs. Doran, asks no questions. Still, Evelyn can sense the weight of curiosity in every stare. In towns like this, stories arrive faster than wagons. At night, she dreams of the canyon. Sometimes she stands again by the pool of water, seeing Kohana's reflection beside hers, hearing him whisper words she cannot understand. Other nights, she dreams of the hawk circling over endless dunes. Each dawn, she wakes with the feeling that someone has just turned away from her window. Weeks pass. She learns to move quietly, to keep her head down, yet the rhythm of the town begins to breathe around her. Children chase dogs through the dust. Miners drink away their wages. The church bell tolls at noon. For moments, she almost forgets the weight of her name. Almost. Then one evening, while closing the cafe, she finds a small bundle left on the counter, a hawk's feather bound with leather cord. Her heart stops. She looks outside. The street is empty, dusk spilling gold through the slats. No sign of a rider, only the whisper of wind down the alley. She tells herself it could be coincidence. Yet that night she cannot sleep. She keeps the feather near the lamp, watching its shadow tremble on the wall. Far out on the plains, Kohana watches the same moon rise. He has not entered a white man's town since the fire, but something pulls him toward Dry Creek. From the ridge, he can see its lights blinking faintly like stars fallen to earth. The vow still binds him, but now it tugs differently, less with anger, more with ache. He tells himself he rides only to be certain she lives. The spirits, however, whisper another truth, that a bond once forged in love cannot be severed by distance. Days later, Evelyn feels eyes on her as she works. A tall stranger in a dust-coated coat sits near the window, always ordering coffee he never drinks. He speaks little, but when she passes, she senses the calm watchfulness of someone trained to notice every motion. Once, when she drops a cup, his hand moves instinctively, swift, sure, the way Kohana's once did when he caught her before she fell. Her breath catches. She tells herself it can't be him. The man lowers his gaze, says nothing, leaves before sunset. That night she goes to the edge of town, to the river that gleams faintly under starlight. She kneels in the shallows, whispering to the current, "If you can hear me, if your vow still binds me, know that I am trying." The wind answers with the faint rustle of wings. She looks up just in time to see the silhouette of a hawk gliding across the moon. Inside her chest, hope and fear wrestle until dawn. The following morning, a letter arrives. No address, no seal, just her name written in careful script she recognizes instantly. Her hands tremble as she unfolds it. "Evelyn, the land remembers what we forget. I have watched you walk among strangers and carry water to the weak. You keep your word to live. The hawk carried your prayer. The spirits hear you. When the river runs red with sunset, wait by its edge. Some debts can be met only in silence." And she reads the note again and again. Part of her wants to burn it. Another part clutches it to her heart. When evening comes, she goes to the river as he asked. The sky burns crimson, the reflection staining the water like spilled wine. She waits until shadows swallow the banks. Then she feels him before she sees him, the air shifting, the faint scent of cedar smoke, the sound of hooves. He stops a few paces away, still mounted, half in shadow. No war paint now, only the calm gravity of a man who has walked through fire and found his way back. The wind moves between them like a living thing. "You found me," she whispers. His answer is soft but sure. "The vow led me." The vow and what lives beneath it. She steps forward, unsure if she should touch him. "I thought you wanted me to live without you." "I wanted the truth to live," he says. "It brought me here." They stand in silence, the river murmuring at their feet. She searches his eyes for anger, finds only depth like the canyon after rain. "Do you forgive me?" she asks. He doesn't speak. Instead, he dismounts, kneels, and presses a hand to the earth between them. "The land forgave first," he says. "Now it is my turn to learn." A breeze rises, carrying the scent of mesquite and the cry of the hawk above them. He reaches into his pouch and holds out a small object, the broken carving she once held in ashes, now mended with silver. It was never meant to stay broken, he says. Neither were we. Tears spill down her face. She takes the carving, feeling the warmth of his hand linger. Around them, the desert glows with the last light of day, an amber veil, soft and forgiving. They do not embrace. The distance between them feels sacred, like the pause between two heartbeats that might become one. As twilight deepens, Kohana steps back toward his horse. I will not follow you into the town again, he says, but the hawk will. When you are ready to return to the land, it will show you the way. Evelyn nods, unable to speak. He mounts and rides into the fading light, the dust rising behind him like mist. She stands watching until the horizon swallows him, clutching the repaired carving to her chest. For the first time since the night of betrayal, she feels the weight of the vow lift, not gone but changed, transmuted into something like hope. As darkness settles, the lamps of Dry Creek flicker alive in the distance. Evelyn turns back toward them, knowing that her story is not finished, but that somewhere beyond the horizon, Kohana rides under the same stars, and that the thread between them, fragile yet unbroken, will guide them both toward whatever redemption waits next. Dawn bleeds into the valley like a slow-moving storm. The water outside Dry Creek runs high from mountain melt, and people whisper of strange lights along its banks. Evelyn wakes before sunrise, drawn by a restless pull she cannot name. The mended carving glints beside her bed. Each silver seam catches the first light as if alive. She wraps it in cloth and slips into the cool morning air. The river is different today, wide, swollen, whispering in tones that sound almost human. Mist clings to the reeds. She kneels where she last saw Kohana and dips the carving into the current, murmuring a prayer she remembers from his tongue. The water answers with a sudden swirl that sends ripples out in concentric rings. Something glimmers beneath the surface, metal, then bone, then nothing. A shiver runs through her spine. By afternoon, the town buzzes with unease. Miners report tools vanishing, horses spook for no reason, and one boy swears he saw figures moving along the ridge at midnight, warriors made of smoke. Mrs. Dorn spits and says the desert always keeps its dead close. But Evelyn knows better. The past is not done with them. That evening, thunder growls beyond the mesas. As she gathers water, she hears hoofbeats. Not a stranger's rhythm, she knows this cadence. When she turns, Kohana rides out of the dusk, cloak soaked from rain, eyes sharp with warning. The river has woken, he says simply. You stirred it when you prayed. He explains that an old burial ground lies upstream, disturbed by prospectors searching for gold. Spirits of the fallen Apache now roam, neither free nor bound, seeking the one who carries the carving, a link between the living and the betrayed. Evelyn feels guilt tighten her chest. She realizes that her plea for forgiveness may have opened the door for darker things. They ride upriver together. Rain lashes their faces, lightning flickers against stone. For hours they travel in silence, only the rhythm of hooves and thunder answering each other. When night finally swallows the trail, they take shelter in a shallow cave. There, the tension between them returns. Not anger now, but the magnetic pull of two souls still tethered. He spreads his blanket near the fire but keeps distance. She watches flames dance over his face, catching the curve of scars at his temple. You still carry my vow, he says quietly. Why? Because it's the only thing that ever felt real, she whispers. His gaze meets hers. Outside, wind howls through the canyon, and for a heartbeat neither moves. Then he reaches out, fingertips brushing hers. A spark, a silent promise. The air between them thickens with longing. But before the moment can break, the fire sputters. A cold wind floods the cave, carrying voices, low, echoing, mournful. The river of ghosts has found them. Shapes flicker at the mouth of the cave. Shadows in human form. Eyes like dull embers. Kohana rises, drawing the ceremonial knife from his belt. Stay behind me, he orders, voice steady though his hand trembles. The spirits speak in broken whispers, fragments of ancient laments. Evelyn cannot understand the words, yet she feels their sorrow like knives. One reaches toward her. The carving in her hand burns hot. Acting on instinct, she steps forward and lifts it high. We mean no harm, she cries. The ghosts recoil, the light from the silver seams blazing brighter. Kohana chants in his native tongue, each syllable cutting through the storm's roar. The figures waver, thinning like mist until only the rain remains. When silence falls, Evelyn collapses to her knees, trembling. Kohana catches her, holding her close while the last echo fades. The river wanted remembrance, not revenge, he murmurs. You gave it voice. She rests her forehead against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady beneath the storm. For the first time, their closeness feels without fear. Two halves of a broken vow becoming whole again. By dawn, the rain has stopped. Mist drifts over the water, pale and peaceful. They walk side by side along the river's edge. What now, she asks. He looks east, where light touches the mountains. Now we choose what the vow becomes. It was born in pain. Perhaps it can live in love. Evelyn reaches for his hand, then let it. As the sun climbs, the carving gleams once more. No longer a token of betrayal, but a bridge between worlds. And in the whisper of the river, the ghosts seem to sing their blessing. The storm passes, but its echo lingers in the valley like a held breath. Dry Creek awakens to strange calm, air too still, sky too bright. The townsfolk speak in low voices of the night's thunder, of phantom lights gliding over the river. Evelyn and Kohana ride back through the dawn, exhausted yet bound by something fierce and unspoken. They stop at the edge of town. For the first time, sunlight strikes them both without casting a shadow between. You shouldn't be here, she murmurs. They'll see you, he smiles faintly. Let them. The truth walks taller than their fear. But the truth, as always, carries a cost. By midday, word spreads that the Apache chief has returned for the white woman. Whispers crawl through saloons and shops. Faces harden, hands find rifle stocks. The sheriff, old, cautious, and too fond of coin, summons Evelyn to the station. You've brought trouble, he says, eyeing her with weary judgment. Men don't forget the blood of war. Best you send him back where he came from. Evelyn's voice doesn't waver. He came to protect you all. Without him, this town would be dust. The sheriff shakes his head. The frontier don't trade in gratitude, ma'am. Only in fear. That night the mob forms. Miners drunk on pride and whiskey, torches flickering against the darkness. Kohana stands at the edge of the street, unarmed, the moon haloing his figure. He could flee. The hills are close. Instead, he waits. Beside him, Evelyn steps forward, eyes blazing. You'll have to go through me first, she says. The crowd hesitates. One man, a tall rancher with hate in his voice, spits at the ground. You betray your kind for a savage? Evelyn answers with calm fire. I betray no one. I stand with the only man who ever kept his word. Before another word can rise, a gunshot cracks the air. The bullet strikes Kohana's shoulder. He staggers but doesn't fall. Chaos erupts. Evelyn screams, rushing to his side. He grips her wrist, whispering, not fear. Love holds us. Then darkness claims him. They carry him to the chapel. Hours blur as she tends his wound, hands slick with blood. She prays, curses, pleads. The carving lies by his heart, its silver seams glowing faintly. At midnight, when hope frays thin, the feather he gave her years ago drifts through the open window, carried by unseen wind. She presses it to his wound, whispering the chant he once taught her. The room fills with warmth, not fire but life. Kohana's breath returns, shallow but sure. His eyes open, finding hers with quiet strength. You called me back, he murmurs. I never stopped calling, she replies, tears streaking her dust-stained face. Outside, the mob disperses, shamed by their own fear. Dawn paints the town gold, and from the river rises the cry of a hawk, the same sound that marked the night of their first vow. Kohana stands weak but proud, the sun at his back. He takes her hand before the townsfolk, his voice steady. The vow was once a chain, he says. Now it is a bridge, between blood, between worlds. Let the land judge us by love, not color. Silence follows. Then slowly, Mrs. Doran steps forward, placing her hand over her heart. Others follow, one by one, lowering weapons, bowing heads. The sheriff clears his throat. Guess it's time we start living like the land wants us to. Kohana turns to Evelyn, eyes soft as dawn. You could go back east, he says. Start over. She shakes her head. My heart started here, and so will our future. They ride out together to the canyon where it all began. The air smells of sage and rain. He stops by the pool of clear water where once his reflection stood alone. This is where the vow began, he says quietly. And this, she answers, touching his face, is where it lives. He bends, pressing his forehead to hers. Then let it bind no longer, but breathe. Their lips meet, slow, reverent, fierce with years of unspoken ache. Around them, wind sweeps through the canyon, carrying the sound of the river's new song. Not sorrow, but renewal. The hawk circles above, its cry echoing through endless sky. The desert blossoms where the fire once burned. Months pass and the wind carries new sounds through the valley. Children's laughter, the low hum of harvest, the whisper of peace trying to take root. Kohana and Evelyn have made their home between two worlds. A small ranch near the canyon, half built from stone, half from wood, a symbol of their joined paths. Around it grow green fields coaxed from dry soil by patience and prayer. Each morning Evelyn wakes before the sun, her hands rough from work, but her heart light. She tends the garden while Kohana rides out to the river, guiding his people and the settlers to share its water instead of fighting over it. The land, once divided by blood, now begins to heal under their quiet leadership. But peace is fragile in the frontier. One afternoon, a rider comes bearing news. A band of men from the south has been raiding nearby ranches, claiming they serve justice for what was stolen. Among them rides a name Evelyn hoped never to hear again. Caleb Ward, the prospector who once tricked her into betraying Kohana. Rumor says he survived the fire, scarred and vengeful. Now he hunts the woman who ruined him. That night, beneath a cold moon, Kohana senses the change in the air. The coyotes are silent, the wind uneasy. The past is moving toward us, he says. Evelyn nods, gripping his hand. Then we face it together. Days later, smoke rises from the ridge, ranches burning, gunfire echoing. Kohana rides to defend the valley, while Evelyn helps evacuate the settlers' families to the canyon. As she leads the children through the brush, a shot cracks behind her. She turns and sees him, Caleb, disfigured by old scars, hatred burning in his eyes. "You took everything from me," he snarls. "Even the ghosts turned on me because of you." Evelyn steadies herself. "You turned on yourself, Caleb. The land only gives back what you sow." He raises his pistol, but before he can fire, a hawk screeches overhead, diving at his hand. The shot goes wide. Kohana bursts through the trees, knocking him to the ground. The two men struggle in the dirt, past and present colliding, fury and justice locked together. Evelyn rushes forward, but the fight is fierce. Caleb draws a knife, slashing wildly. Kohana disarms him, yet instead of killing, he tosses the weapon into the river. "No more blood," he says, breath ragged. "The spirits have seen enough." Caleb stumbles back, confused by mercy he cannot understand. "You should hate me." "I did," Kohana answers. "Now I choose to live." The bandits scatter when they see their leader defeated. Silence returns to the valley, broken only by the hiss of cooling embers. Evelyn falls to her knees beside Kohana, tears and dust streaking her face. "It's over," she whispers. He cups her cheek gently. "No, beloved. It's just beginning." They bury the weapons in the earth as an offering, iron given back to soil, violence returned to dust. When rain falls that evening, it runs red with clay, washing away the ashes. The river hums low and calm, its ghosts finally at peace. Weeks later, the valley blooms again. New settlers arrive, Apache families trade freely, and the town of Dry Creek begins to thrive under shared law. Kohana and Evelyn are seen riding side by side across the fields, their silhouettes outlined by the setting sun, a chief and a woman once divided by guilt, now bound by something far stronger: forgiveness. On the anniversary of their vow, they return to the canyon. The pool glimmers like glass, untouched since that night. Evelyn lays the repaired carving upon a flat stone. The silver seams shine under the moon. "Will the vow still bind us when we're gone?" she asks softly. Kohana smiles. "No, the land will carry it for us. That is enough." They stand together, the wind wrapping them in its quiet hymn. The hawk circles once, twice, then disappears into the starlit sky. In that vast silence, their love no longer feels forbidden or fragile. It feels eternal, written across every dune, every river, every heartbeat of the earth that finally remembers peace. The first snow falls earlier than anyone remembers. It dusts the red rocks of the canyon like powdered bone, and the river runs black under the cold sky. Kohana stands outside their cabin, watching his breath rise in plumes of mist. "The land is warning us," he murmurs. "This winter will not be gentle." Evelyn wraps a shawl around his shoulders and smiles softly. "We've faced worse than snow." He kisses her forehead. "Snow can be kind. What comes with it may not." As the days shorten, a strange sickness sweeps through the Apache camp upriver. fever that burns like fire, leaving the strong weak and the young gasping. Kohana rides out daily with herbs and prayers, while Evelyn tends the settlers who have fallen ill as well. The sickness knows no boundary. It crosses bloodlines, reminding all that nature has no side. One night, as snow thickens, a messenger arrives, an old shaman named Waya, his eyes clouded with age. He brings grave news. The fever has reached the tribal children, and the only cure lies hidden in the sacred springs of Tacho Valley, 3 days' ride north, across lands haunted by old battles. But the path is cursed, Waya warns. Fire once fell there. Spirits of vengeance guard the way. Kohana doesn't hesitate. Then we will walk through fire again. Evelyn steps beside him. Not alone. They leave before dawn, riding into a world of white silence. The snow blinds, the wind cuts like knives, yet they move as one, sharing warmth, trading laughter to keep the cold at bay. At night they make camp under ancient pines, firelight painting gold across their faces. The silence between them grows deep but never heavy. Even in the heart of winter, their closeness feels like summer. On the second night they find the valley, a place of ghostly beauty, all frost and shadow. But the ground here remembers war, blackened stones, rusted weapons half buried in ice, echoes of screams long past. Evelyn shivers. It feels alive. Kohana nods grimly. The land remembers what men forget. They reach the sacred spring just as twilight bleeds into night. Steam rises from the water, glowing faintly blue. As Evelyn kneels to fill their flask, a low rumble shakes the ground. Figures rise from the mist. Warriors of ash and flame, the lost souls of Kohana's ancestors who died in betrayal. Their eyes burn like coals. Their voices whisper accusation. You broke the vow, they hiss. You loved beyond blood. Kohana steps forward, unflinching. I broke nothing. I fulfilled it. The spirits close in, forming a ring of fire. Evelyn reaches for him, but heat drives her back. You can't fight them, she cries. I don't need to, he answers. They are my blood. I only need to make them remember. He begins to chant the same prayer she once heard by the canyon pool. His voice cuts through the roar, steady, commanding. The spirits falter, their flames dimming. Evelyn, heart pounding, adds her voice. Soft at first, then stronger. Her words weaving through his like wind through cedar. Together they sing of unity, of forgiveness, of love unbound by the limits of old law. The fire flares, then breaks apart into 1,000 glowing embers that rise into the storming sky, souls finally freed. When silence falls, only snow remains, melting gently against their skin. Kohana collapses, spent but alive. Evelyn catches him, tears and snow mixing on her cheeks. You did it, she whispers. He smiles faintly. No, we did. The vow was never meant for chains. It was meant for light. They fill their flask from the spring and begin the long ride home. The journey back is brutal, their horses half frozen, the world a blur of white and wind. Yet when they finally return, the medicine saves both settlers and tribe alike. The fever fades. The valley breathes again. Weeks later, when spring edges through the snow, the people gather by the river. For the first time, Apache and settler build one fire together. Kohana stands beside Evelyn as Waya blesses them before the united crowd. You walked through fire, the shaman says, and found water. You turned curse into cure. The land will remember your names. Kohana looks down at Evelyn, eyes full of quiet wonder. Every vow I made, he says softly, led me to this moment. She smiles, pressing his hand to her heart. Then let this be our final vow, never to let the world make us strangers again. The people cheer. Above them, the sky opens clear and blue, the hawk soaring higher than ever before. Spring sweeps across the valley like a hymn reborn. The river runs clear again, carving silver veins through the red earth. Wildflowers bloom where ash once lay, and children, Apache and settler alike, chase each other through the fields, their laughter echoing between the mesas. Evelyn stands on the porch of their cabin, the morning light soft against her hair. The mended carving rests in her hands, its silver seams dulled now with age, yet it still hums faintly when she touches it, as though it remembers. Kohana rides up from the river, his horse wet to the flanks, his eyes bright with quiet joy. The land heals faster than hearts, he says, but both heal given time. She smiles, touching the scar on his shoulder. And love heals what time cannot. For months they live in rare peace. The fever never returns. The crops grow strong and Dry Creek becomes a place of trade instead of tension. People tell stories of the woman who tamed the ghost river and the chief who turned fire into water. But Kohana laughs at the legends. The truth is simpler, he says. We just refuse to stop believing. Then one evening the sky burns with color, violet, gold, crimson, and a great hawk circles above their home. Evelyn watches, heart fluttering. It's the same one, she whispers. The one that found us in the desert. Kohana nods slowly. Or its spirit. The hawk cries once, sharp and clear, then dives low, dropping something at their feet. A smooth white stone marked with a spiral symbol. Waya, who visits often, kneels to examine it. This sign, he murmurs, belongs to the oldest prophecy of our people. It speaks of two hearts, one born of fire, one of water, whose union will open the way to a Hanito, the eternal peace. That night, Kohana and Evelyn walk together to the canyon, carrying the stone and the carving. The stars are fierce and close, the air alive with the hum of the earth. At the edge of the pool where they first met, they kneel. Evelyn sets the carving upon the stone. For a moment, both pulse with soft blue light. Kohana takes her hand. This is where the vow began, he says. She nods. Then let it end here, not in binding, but in blessing. Together, they speak the words of release. Half English, half Apache, half prayer, half promise. The wind stirs around them, rising to a low roar. The river's reflection shimmers until they no longer see themselves, only light. The carving cracks gently along its silver seams and dissolves into dust, carried away by the wind. The spiral stone glows once, then fades. Silence follows, deep, reverent, final. Kohana exhales, his eyes glistening. It's done. Evelyn smiles, tears tracing her cheeks. No more vows. He shakes his head gently. Only love. As dawn breaks, the hawk returns, soaring higher and higher until it vanishes into the sunrise. Beneath its flight, the land seems reborn. The canyon's walls glinting gold, the water whispering peace. Evelyn leans into Kohana's chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and sure. Do you think they're truly at rest now? She asks. He nods. The spirits, the land. Even us. Years later, travelers passing through the valley still tell the story of the lovers who ended the curse of the river. They say when the sun sets just right, two silhouettes appear by the canyon pool, hand in hand, facing the horizon, and a hawk cries above them, circling endlessly in light. But those who live there know the truth, that Kohana and Evelyn never left. They became part of the land, their vow transformed into wind, into water, into the quiet heartbeat of a valley that will never forget the love that saved it. Final line, epilogue style. And so the desert kept their secret not of betrayal, but of devotion strong enough to tame even the ghosts of the frontier.